US President Donald Trump fired Secretary of State Rex Tillerson after a series of public rifts over policy on North Korea, Russia and Iran. He's replacing his chief diplomat with loyalist CIA Director Mike Pompeo. Rex Tillerson said he was delegating all of his responsibilities to the State Department's number 2 official and that he would leave office at the end of the month. Trump announced that he picked CIA Director Gina Haspel, to replace Mike Pompeo as the head of agency. If confirmed by the Senate, she would become the first woman to hold this post. The India-US 2+2 dialogue could be among the first major bilateral engagements of Mike Pompeo when he is confirmed as next month to meet the Secretary of State for the United States. The United States of Florida is seeking the death penalty for 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, who killed 17 people in a shooting rampage at a high school last month. Gun control activists create a makeshift memorial of 7,000 pairs of shoes to dramatize the number of children killed in the United States by gunfire since the 2012 Sandy Hook school massacre. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said the EU executive was expecting to hear more from the United States in the coming days on its plan to introduce import tariffs on steel and aluminium. Mexico's economy minister said that the next round of talks between Mexico, the United States and Canada to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement is tentatively scheduled for April 8th. The Israeli military hosted US Marines this week for an urban combat drill in a mock-up of a generic Middle East village, sharing know-how and signaling the allies' shared interest as the leaders closed ranks on a host of regional issues. Russia vows to retaliate for any British sanctions imposed in response to a suspected poison attack on British soil and demanded access to samples of nerve agent that investigators say was linked to Moscow in the poisoning of former Russian spy and his daughter. A senior police officer said police investigating the poisoning of a Russian double agent in Britain will, in fact, not at this stage name any potential suspects, as the inquiry still continues. Meanwhile, world leaders are coming in support of Theresa May. US President Donald Trump has agreed with May that Russia must provide answers about how a Russian-developed chemical agent came to be used against a Russian double agent in Britain. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel condemned the attack on a Russian spy in the United Kingdom. The Macron called France's commitment to fight against impunity for use of chemical weapons, and Merkel said it is up to Russia to quickly provide answers to the UK government. The European Union also say that it stands by Britain after London said it was likely that Moscow was behind the Norwegian attack on the former Russian double agent in England. A pharmacology expert said Novichok nerve agent used to attack Russian former double agent in English city of Salisbury is a binary chemical weapon which is very hard to detect. He said that one of the main reasons for these agents that are developed is because their component parts are not on the banned list. British counter-terrorism police are investigating the unexplained death of Russian associate of late tycoon Boris Berezovsky. It said that the death was not thought to be linked to a Norwegian attack on a former Russian double agent. Forensic officers scoured the scene at an address in Clarence Avenue in southwest London on Tuesday evening during an investigation into the unexplained death of a Russian associate of late tycoon Boris Berezovsky. A man was injured after a helicopter crashed in the Perth airport in Scotland. A video showed paramedics attending to the wounded man and placing him in an ambulance. Reports suggest that the injured man was an engineer who was testing the craft on the ground before it crashed on its side. At least one person was killed and many injured when a bus carrying high school students plunged into a ravine off the side of an interstate highway in Baldwin County, Alabama. EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said that speeches made about the future relationship between Britain and the European Union need to be translated into treaties and agreements as soon as possible. The European Union's Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, hammered again that Britain would not retain its current privileges, including trade, once it leaves the bloc. The EU and Britain are hoping to seal a deal this month on transition period after Brexit, and they will start talks on their future relationships this spring. Sick and injured civilians left a rebel enclave in Syria's eastern Ghouta under the first medical evacuation since a massive assault began nearly a month ago. Men, women and children waited in the town of Douma for evacuation in Syrian Red Crescent buses. The Russian nations have accused the international community of monstrous indifference to the plight of suffering Syrian children as the conflict enters its 8th year. A total of 910 children have died in 2017 alone. And France's foreign minister said that Turkey's operation against Kurdish militants in the Afrin region was not justified. The strongest language yet from Paris regarding its NATO allies' intervention in Syria. China calls for the United Nations Security Council to stay united and a joint international effort on humanitarian aid for Syria. Chinese spokesman gave the remarks when he asked questions about the UN Security Council action on the Syrian issue and also the ceasefire as soon as possible. Palestinian Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah survived an assassination attempt in Gaza, the Palestinian authorities said, after an apparent roadside bomb had targeted his motorcade. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi agreed to lift a ban on international air traffic to the Kurdistan region, saying that the international flights could resume within 1 week. An Iran Air airplane landed in Belgrade to great fanfare on Tuesday, marking the first flight from Tehran to Serbia in 27 years and a sign of improved ties between the countries. Serbia seeking to boost tourism and growth by reaching out to non-European markets to attract visitors from countries such as Iran. At least 4 people were killed in Yemen's port city of Aden when a car bomb ripped through a military kitchen used by Yemeni forces trained and backed by the United Arab Emirates. President Donald Trump examined 8 different styles of walls on the U.S. border with Mexico, prototypes for the barrier he promised to build to keep out illegal immigrants and drugs. As Donald Trump visited Mexico to see 8 prototypes of the explained border wall, Mexican residents of Tijuana gathered near a border fence with San Diego to protest against the U.S. president's visit. Protesters held up banners when the banner said, "We won't pay for your wall," in reference to Trump's insistence that the structure should be financed by Mexico. And his visit to the border side drew supporters who rallied for the president's planned border wall as well. Supporters said it is a good idea to build the wall because even the Pope, Mexico and China have walls, and why not here? Driving a snow-enveloped the U.S. Northeast in its third winter storm in 2 weeks, closing schools, cancelling flights and even knocking out power thousands of homes and businesses. South Korea's National Security Office asked Moscow to take part in processes that could become a turning point in resolving the crisis in the Korean Peninsula. He added that the Korean crisis should be reversed by peaceful means. China has unveiled a massive cabinet reshuffle plan to make the government better structured, more efficient and service-oriented. There will be 26 ministries and commissions of the State Council after the reshuffle. Russia holds a presidential election on Sunday, but voting has already begun in the flat snow-covered expanses of the Siberian Arctic, which are home to the nomadic Nenets people who herd reindeers. Now, since late February, 282 members of the Nenets community, as well as some of the oil industry workers, have cast their ballots. Some of Russia's young voters think it's time for a change of leadership when the country elects a new president on Sunday. Although current President Vladimir Putin is widely expected to win easily. Sierra Leone's election to pick outgoing President Ernest Bai Koroma's successor will head a runoff later this month after neither of the two frontrunners secured an outright majority in the first round. Turkey's parliament passed a law revamping electoral regulations backing controversial legislation. The opposition has said that it could open the door to fraud and jeopardize the fairness of 2019 polls. The leader of Italy's Five-Star Movement said the anti-establishment party would put forward an expansive economic policy and aim to reduce debt if called on to form a government. Five-Star emerged as Italy's biggest party from a national election on March 4th. Members of the Bring Back Our Girls group gave the Nigerian government a 7-day ultimatum to take action to free the remaining 112 Chibok girls and 110 seized in Dapchi just last month or face court action over gross negligence. Tensions flared in the streets of Colón in Panama as trade unions called their members onto the streets to protest the infrastructure and insecurity deficiencies in the city. And Ecuadorians held a funeral and burial service for the fetuses that had been held in a morgue in this Andean nation where abortion is illegal. Anti-abortion groups worked with local police and forensic officials to bury 36 fetuses that had been found in public spaces. Google said it will launch a network of free Wi-Fi hotspots across Mexico, part of the search giant's efforts to improve connectivity in emerging markets and put its products in the hands of more users. Amazon has launched its first ever debit card in Mexico as part of a push to encourage shoppers without bank accounts to buy online. The world's first public statue featuring the Bitcoin symbol has been unveiled in the Slovenian city of Kranj. The giant symbol of the cryptocurrency, made of metal and it weighs about 3 tons, was placed inside a ring of one of the city's newest roundabouts and was selected through a public contest on Facebook. An artist has replicated an ancient Chinese painting using rather unorthodox materials in China. A 56-year-old woman used yarn to duplicate the famous Chinese panorama. The art was made from 7 different pieces, yarn with more than 80 colors, plumes and iron wires. A sea of cloud offered a majestic view over the mountains of Chengdu County, southwest China, gilded by the morning sun. A vast sea of clouds floated up and down, attracting photographers to capture the stunning view. About 70 elephants in Thailand's ancient capital of Ayutthaya were treated to a fruit buffet to commemorate Elephant Day, an event where adults as well as children get the opportunity to feed the friendly giants. To India now, Indian government says it will continue to take firm and decisive steps to respond to cross-border terrorism, and any meaningful dialogue with Pakistan can be held only in a terror-free atmosphere. India's Supreme Court says mandatory Aadhaar linking with bank accounts and mobile phones will extend indefinitely till the judgment in the case is pronounced. A 113-year-old heritage steam engine, the only existing narrow gauge engine in India's northern Shimla city, is drawing tourists from across the globe. The engine, that dates back to 1903, was awarded World Heritage status by UNESCO in the year 2008.